But it's kind of just like landscaping some of the big names that have been mentioned: Lauri Markkanen and Anthony Davis, Jaren Jackson. Do you think any of these names make sense at all for the Detroit Pistons right now? I know each player would probably have their different asking prices, but I mean, these are the kind of the names that I've seen floated out by Pistons fans over the last couple of months.
I'm gonna completely ignore like just the trade itself, like what it would cost and who would be involved, etc., and just talk about fit. And
Mhm.
I think Lauri Markkanen is, and it's a controversial topic at this current moment, and some people are inevitably going to be upset at this, but I think Lauri Markkanen is like, he fits like a glove on this team.
Mhm.
Obviously, the identity of this team is defense, et cetera, et cetera. But a big hole in this team currently is a secondary creator outside of Cade Cunningham that can put up volume scoring. Lauri Markkanen not only can do that, but he also provides size as a power forward who can give you, honestly, this season 40 on any given night, right? Like, there's nights where, and Kate Cunningham himself talked about this on the Kevin Durant podcast, right? Where he was saying how he doesn't always want to be the one initiating the offense, right? Like, he doesn't always want to be the one, starting everything and constantly having the ball in his hands, and how he wants to play more off ball. And that was in conversation about playing next to another guard, but I think that could also be applied to just having another volume scorer on this team, because Lauri can score on any given level, and I think that also opens up things for Cade. I think that opens up things for Asar. I think him and Jaren would play extremely well together offensively as well. And that's also why you still have Asar on this team. And no, I don't think he would be part of that trade, obviously. I think that's why you have Isaiah Stewart. There inevitably will be times, if Lauri Markkanen were to get traded here, where I think all three of them could probably share the court together, like JB rolled out in Cleveland prior, with Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, and Lauri Markkanen. And I think it would actually work, especially because at this stage, Isaiah Stewart can stretch the floor a lot more than Jared Allen or Evan Mobley could at that point. Now, both of them have expanded their game since then, but that's neither here nor there. I think you look at Lauri, and I think he's just such a seamless fit, and I don't think he's as bad of a defender as people make him out to be, as like a counter argument to why he shouldn't be on this team. I just feel like it makes so much sense. Now, if you want to talk about contract and how he's getting paid over the next 4 years, that's a completely valid criticism. I think that's completely fair. But if you have an owner that's willing to spend, I honestly, I don't see many reasons why not to, if it's completely outside of just like the cost of Lauri Markkanen. That's a completely different conversation. But if you're talking about fit, when you're talking about fit, I don't see how Lauri wouldn't fit, and I don't see how he doesn't raise the Pistons ceiling pretty significantly. Honestly, I think it'd be similar to that 2023. Was it 2023-24 where Indiana traded for Pascal?
I would say, like, out of all three of these guys in the lower third, I think two of these guys fit. I don't really like the fit with Jaren Jackson Jr.
Agreed.
Just for like the rebounding for his size, like your starting point guard on the Pistons shouldn't be averaging more rebounds than Jaren Jackson Jr. I talked to a Memphis Grizzlies podcaster, and I was under the assumption they loved him down there. They don't. They don't like how soft he plays. They don't like how he's passive at times. I saw a lot of people kind of bring him up because of the Michigan State connection. And obviously, he's a hell of a player, was a really high pick. But I don't really think Jaren Jackson would make a whole lot of sense for Detroit. I do think from a stylistic standpoint, Lauri makes a whole lot of sense. We obviously know what the cost is. Danny said like it would start at a SAR, which I'm sure
it's not gonna end up being a SAR.
Yeah. No, I'm sure the Pistons probably laughed and hung up the phone saying, good talking to you, Danny. Like, maybe call you in another month, see where your asking price is at. But I think from just the style standpoint, having a stretch forward like Lauri makes a whole lot of sense. I also think, for what it's worth, even though Anthony Davis has had his injuries, he does make a whole lot of sense for the Pistons as well. Obviously, he's not the 3-point sniper that Lauri is, but he can still stretch the floor, protect the rim, mid range. I mean, the one game I went to the Palace before it got demolished was the 59 against the Pistons, and Anthony Davis went crazy on Anthony Tolliver and Andre
Yep.
Drummond in that game.
Yep.
I know that was a long time ago when he was with the Pelicans, but I mean, like, he's always been a player that I've really, respected and admired. But like, all of these guys are in big contracts. All of these guys are making $50 million. I mean, I think Anthony Davis is close to making, I think, 54, 58, then 60 the final 3 years of his deal. But I think he would actually probably be the cheapest to get right now because it's damaged goods. And I think Dallas, they're not actively saying it, but I think they want to rebuild around Cooper Flag and kind of start like a soft tool rebuild personally.
Yeah, and that is one thing I would like to see. Anthony Davis, and I've gone on record saying this on Twitter a few times. I do think he would be a great fit on this team. The biggest question, obviously, is health, and I think the thing that reasonably scares people away, and understandably so, is the fact that he'll be under contract for the next 2 years? Is he on
3
under
years.
contract for 3
3.
years? Yeah,
Yeah.
3 years. And Anthony Davis is already in his 30s, so you don't know what that looks like in 2-3 years. With that being said, if you are a Lauri detractor, and you talk about how the identity of this team is defense, and how Lauri doesn't fit that, Anthony Davis does. I mean, and I think he's gone through a lot of disrespect since the Luka Doncic trade, where people have kind of discarded him, and like you said, his damaged goods because of not being able to be on the court as often. I think the perception of him around the league is at the lowest it's ever been. And this is someone who was considered a top 75 player of all time, right? Like, Anthony Davis is legitimately going straight to the Hall of Fame as soon as he retires. I think he still can contribute at a very high level right now. Like, it wasn't that long ago in Los Angeles where he was contributing at a very high level. And that Lakers team prior to the Luka trade last year was actually on a bit of a roll. So I really struggle to understand why people don't think Anthony Davis worked. Now, I understand the injury part of it, but if he is on the court, I think it's a no-brainer as to why it would work. I think he could also play alongside Jalen Duren because he never wants to play the center position. And if you think about it, in extended minutes, he really hasn't played alongside a center. I know he does in Dallas currently, but it's not really the ideal situation for him. Not a great fit. But playing it next to a center like Jalen Duren, you think of that bubble Lakers team where JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard completely raised the ceiling of that team just by being able to provide an extra large body that can attack the boards and protect the rim next to Anthony Davis. I think that is a seamless fit. I think the only thing for me that would be a detractor to making that trade would be ultimately the contract, but I think the cost would be very low. I can't see him costing more than maybe possibly one in a swap. And I legitimately think Anthony Davis of all three would be the low cost, high reward kind of option. And I think that's worth exploring. Now, do I think he is the number one on the list of Pistons targets? Probably not.
No.
But do I think he could work out here? And do I think if he's healthy, could bring this team to a finals level team? Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the cost is low. I mean, I don't know if you're allowed to trade front office executives, but I mean, just throw Dennis Lindsey in there, and maybe it's a fair trade so he can take over the Mavs front office. Mavs fans, I don't know if you've seen it. There's a couple of Mavs accounts that have a pretty big following, and they're like, "Yeah, Dennis Lindsey turned the Pistons around." They completely ignore that Trajan has been here and kind of added on the margins. It's like, yeah, Dennis drafted all those players. It's like, okay, if you really want to believe that, like, here, give us AD, we'll give you Dennis Lindsey.
Yeah, one other thing I wanted to add just to the AD thing was just like, imagine teams trying to score on Asar Thompson, Isaiah Stewart, and Anthony Davis in the same lineup. Like that is a nightmare defensively, and I think that would be the thing that makes this Pistons team come out of the Eastern Conference if a trade were to be that reason.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Pistons will make a move. I know a lot of the names that have been just disgruntled stars. Obviously, you're not trading for John Moran or LaMelo Ball. You got your point guard, but you do kind of see front court players. And I feel like we've been talking about like stretch fours and power forwards for the past 2 years, even though Tobias Harris absolutely just lit it up last night. Only missed 2 shots. I mean, he was just in his bag against the Miami Heat last night. I had to remember who the hell did we play, because the game was so chaotic that it just wiped my memory because I just had so many chest pains in the fourth quarter.